Mercy is caring, caring that goes beyond competence, beyond efficiency, caring that involves emotional, social, and spiritual support. All in the Mercy community, the staff, the hospital board, and volunteers are united in a ministry of healing. Mercy offers help with dignity and respect, and with the spirit and love of Christ. This history of caring reaches back more than 2 centuries to the commitment of one person, Catherine Macaulay, who was born in Dublin in 1778. It was a time of strife and widespread poverty in Ireland. British law excluded Catholics from educational opportunities, equal civil rights, and the open practice of their faith. But Catherine was born the daughter of a successful Dublin businessman, James Macaulay. Though he died when Catherine was only 5 years old, she carried on his deep concern for the oppressed. The death of Catherine's father and then her mother left the Macaulay children orphans. The family estate, Stormanstown House, was lost, and the children were separated. Catherine was taken in by close family friends, the Callahans. She was able to pursue her goal of working with the poor of Dublin, but she was not able to practice her religion openly in this strict Quaker household. 20 years later, however, Catherine inherited the Callahan family estate and was able to realize her life work. She commissioned a building for the needy on Dublin's fashionable Baggot Street. It was called the House of Mercy, and it opened September 24th, 1827. The social elite of Dublin began volunteering to teach and care for the children of the poor. Staff members tended to the sick in their homes and in public hospitals. Young women were trained in needlework, etiquette, and domestic services so that they might find paying work in the nearby homes of the wealthy.
The spirit of selflessness and giving at the House of Mercy so moved the Archbishop of Dublin that he asked Catherine to establish a religious order that her work might endure. In 1831, after training in preparation for a life of religious service, Catherine Macaulay and 2 colleagues founded the Sisters of Mercy upon a commitment to help the poor, the sick, the uneducated, and all those in any way wounded by contemporary society. That commitment remains at the core of the Mercy mission.
Catherine Macaulay died of tuberculosis just 10 years after founding her community. But by then, there were 100 sisters to carry on her work. Today, there are 13,000. In 1843, only 2 years after Catherine's death, her closest friend and assistant, Mother Mary Frances Xavier Ward, brought a group of sisters to America. They would establish Mercy Hospital in Pittsburgh, the oldest Catholic hospital in the United States. 3 years later, at the request of Bishop Porter from the New Frontier Diocese of Chicago, Mother Frances Xavier Ward chose 5 from the growing community in Pittsburgh, and they set off by stagecoach and boat for Chicago. This muddy village on the shores of Lake Michigan was ravaged by recurrent outbreaks of typhoid, smallpox, and cholera. In 1846, under the leadership of Sister Agatha O'Brien, who at 24 years of age was the oldest of the 5 sisters, schools were established. One of the schools offered high school courses 10 years before the opening of the first public high school. The sisters created a boarding house for working girls, treated the sick in their homes and in the almshouse, and in the local jail. Within a decade, 4 of those 5 sisters were dead, victims of disease or exhaustion. In 1849, at a site that today would be near Rush and the Chicago River, Lake House, a former hotel which had become a rooming house, was converted to a hospital, and Chicago's first hospital, Illinois General Hospital, was established. The sisters began serving there as nurses, and a year later the hospital was turned over to the Sisters of Mercy and became Mercy Hospital, the first Catholic hospital in Chicago. It became the first chartered hospital in 1852. Because of problems, the flooding and vermin, the sisters moved the hospital from its river location to Tippecanoe Hall at Kinsey and State, then into a brand new building at Wabash and Van Buren. And the hospital had a new name, Mercy Hospital and Orphan Asylum, dedicated to both medical care and to medical education.
By 1859, Mercy Hospital was the first Catholic hospital to affiliate with the medical school known as the Lind School of Medicine, which required a graded curriculum. A few years later, the Lind School of Medicine merged with the Chicago Medical College. The leader of this merger was Dr. Nathan Davis, renowned for his leadership in medical education. A decade later, the Chicago Medical School became part of Northwestern University. This affiliation was a mutually rewarding relationship for 50 years.
In the 1860s, when the country was ripped apart by civil war, the Sisters of Mercy treated the Union wounded and gave care to Confederate prisoners of war. In 1863, with the war not yet ended, the sisters moved their hospital once again, this time to the site of the former academy in what seemed to be a far distant country of 26th Street and Prairie Avenue. Reports of the time suggest that there was some scoffing at the move, and there was criticism too when the hospital broke grounds for extensive additions in 1869.
Surely it was folly to put up so large a building which would never be fully used.
But 2 years later, every bit of that space would be needed. In October of 1871, Chicago burned. Mercy Hospital, which had seemed so ridiculously large and so foolishly placed on the fringe of the city, became a haven beyond the fire's reach, and provided for 6 times the number of fire victims any other hospital could handle. The history of Mercy and the history of Chicago became inseparable. Mercy's importance to this remarkable new city, rising on the prairie, was rooted in a commitment to bring high medical and high teaching standards. In 1882, the state of Illinois licensed pharmacists for the first time. 57 men and 1 woman took the exams. 3 men and that 1 woman passed. That woman was Sister Mary Ignatius Feeney from Mercy Hospital. In 1892, Mercy established a formal nursing school. Only the second in Illinois, it was the first Catholic nursing school and the first to require a high school diploma. Facilities were expanded, upgraded, and remodeled, so that by the turn of the century, Mercy Hospital had evolved from a makeshift outpost of assistance to one of the nation's great medical institutions. In 1895, it was Sister Mary Raphael who brought to Mercy one of the most remarkable figures in American medicine, Dr. John B. Murphy. He pioneered sterile surgical practices and was among the first to describe symptoms of acute appendicitis and to recommend early surgery as the cure. An associate said,
"He taught the world what it knows about abdominal surgery, the surgery of tuberculosis, the blood vessels, and bones and joints."
But perhaps above all else, Dr. Murphy was a teacher, demonstrating advanced surgical techniques in the amphitheater at Mercy Hospital. In 1919, the sisters had to sever the excellent affiliation with Northwestern University because the late Cardinal Mundelein requested that Mercy Hospital join the newly founded Catholic School of Medicine named Loyola, which later became the Stritch School of Medicine. In the decades that follow, Mercy remained at the vanguard of medical treatment. Thousands of medical doctors were trained there. During the 1920s and 30s, Dr. Henry Schmitz helped further radiation techniques for the treatment of cancer, created the Institute of Radiation Therapy, and in association with General Electric Company, installed a 1,000,000-volt X-ray machine at Mercy. During the 1940s, Dr. Harold Voris was a national leader in the still uncertain discipline of neurosurgery. He was responsible for the first cerebral spinal fluid bank and the successful separation of Siamese twins joined at the head. Mercy's physical therapy department also gained nationwide attention through the work of Sister Mary Flora Delaney, the first sister trained as a physical therapist. Despite the fame and glory that came to Mercy, the sisters did not neglect Catherine McCauley's commitment to those wounded by contemporary society. In 1921, the Sisters of Mercy took over a World War I veterans dispensary to offer medical and surgical services to the poor. During the Depression, the Mercy Free Dispensary served the jobless until the national economic tragedy forced it to close down. Yet, in 1938, the dispensary opened again, providing needed health care services to tens of thousands. In the early 50s, plans for building a new Mercy were made. The original plan called for Mercy and the Stritch School of Medicine to locate on the same campus. Such plans did not materialize, and one of the reasons was that Stritch School wanted to move out of Chicago into suburbia. The Sisters of Mercy were unwilling to do this because they would be abandoning their commitment to medical care for patients most in need. The mayor, Richard J. Daley, also understood the importance of Mercy Hospital to Chicago. Through the Department of Urban Renewal, he helped Mercy acquire the land between 25th and 26th Street, from Michigan to King Drive. Mercy would remain a part of Chicago. But before the new hospital could be built, there was a dramatic brush with tragedy in the historic old facility. "Miracle at Mercy," a headline called it.
On September 13th, 1963, Friday the 13th, a 511 fire alarm forced the evacuation of 100 patients, including a man undergoing brain surgery and an infant 1 hour old. Not one person was hurt in the fire. It was just 3 days later that ground was broken for the new Mercy. And in January of 1968, Chicago's oldest hospital became its newest, with the opening of a 517-bed facility. The modern design was tested in tragedy in 1973 when 2 Illinois Central commuter trains collided on the south side. 120 victims were rushed to the emergency room. Mercy, along with 3 other hospitals, later received the Chicago Hospital Council's Award of Merit for the response to the crisis.
In 1976, 124 years after the founding of Mercy Hospital and Orphan Asylum, its name was changed to Mercy Hospital and Medical Center. This was symbolic of a new era in healthcare. Today, Mercy Hospital and Medical Center is part of a nationwide network of Mercy healthcare facilities within the reach of 75% of the American population. The Sisters of Mercy, Regional Community of Chicago, sponsor ministries in Illinois, Iowa, and Wisconsin.
Mercy proudly offers persons throughout metropolitan Chicago many services. Mercy has rehabilitation services which coordinate several treatment modalities at the hospital and the satellites, helping victims of accidents or disease to regain physical independence.
Mercy has a home-like atmosphere in the labor and delivery rooms. Maternity services provide state-of-the-art technology and care to mothers and their families, from Lamaze classes to prepare for delivery, to infant care, mother care, and parenting classes several times a day, to the opportunity to receive answers to questions that don't arise until after arriving home.
Mercy has an oncology unit and outpatient services for treating and counseling cancer patients, as well as hematology services for sickle cell and hemochromatosis.
Mercy has stereotactic radiosurgery, an alternative, non-invasive treatment for patients who have recurring or persistent brain or spine lesions, medical problems which make them poor candidates for extended surgery or anesthesia, or have refused surgery.
Mercy has an expanded cardiac services program offering access to outstanding surgical, diagnostic, and preventive cardiac care. Our team of experts have developed a coordinated approach to facilitate the healing process.
Mercy has inpatient and outpatient alcohol and drug dependency treatment programs. These involve not only patients, but their families.
Mercy has an eye care center with a complete range of equipment and services for detecting and preventing vision problems.
Mercy Home Health Care, licensed in the state of Illinois since 1983 and accredited by the Joint Commission on Accreditation of Healthcare Organizations, offers a complete range of services.
Mercy has magnetic resonance imaging that can explore the human body without surgery or x-ray.
But Mercy remains more than buildings filled with technological marvels. The entire staff promotes and maintains a patient-driven philosophy. Mercy Elder Care provides a wide range of services for those 55 or over. Support groups for people with Alzheimer's or Parkinson's and for their caregivers. Physician house calls, insurance counseling, and a number of other opportunities. A patient relations staff visits the home of the sick, the lonely, and the isolated.
In response to the needs of a changing market, Mercy continues to help those with chronic illnesses. The Arthritis Center provides assistance. The Diabetes Treatment Center sponsors monthly classes. The Mercy Behavioral Health Services offer comprehensive outpatient mental health care. The Skilled Nursing Facility gives hospital-based long-term nursing care. The Parish Nurse Program reaches out to community churches. Better Breathers Brunch supports and educates asthmatic children and is one of many support groups offered at Mercy.
The quality of these programs and many other services, both on our main campus and at our ambulatory satellites, improves. And Mercy continues its historic role as a major teaching hospital, maintaining its affiliation with the University of Illinois Medical School, begun in 1970.
Mercy is ever expanding into the communities of Chicagoland, providing long-term care at Mercy Healthcare and Rehabilitation Center in Homewood, offering patient care from facilities in Justice, in Bridgeport, in Chinatown, in Chatham, and at Presidential Towers.
Since that September day in 1846, when the First Sisters of Mercy dared to venture west to the brawling frontier town of Chicago, the commitment of Catherine McCauley has been tested by fire, disease, and financial hardship. That commitment remains, bringing hope, comfort, and care to a growing metropolis. The history of Mercy is a rich, strong history, and it is growing ever stronger.
It is a story of 135 years of courage, compassion, and commitment. Courage to travel across an ocean to an unknown land and join in the growth of a brawling pioneer city. Compassion for its sick, its poor, and its uneducated. And a lifetime commitment to patient care, medical education, and research.
I think our basic response has always been, what is the need of the time? And back in 1848, it was the sick and the orphans. In 1987, you look around, and it is clearly the sick and the poor who need our response. There's something symbolic about all this in the building and the rebuilding of Mercy Hospital. The futuristic design, the artwork that the sisters felt so strongly about having here, and all of that was to lift us up, to bring us to another generation of caring with mercy.
We take a fourth vow of caring for the poor, the sick, and the uneducated. And our foundress, Catherine McCauley, that was her whole life. So that's really our purpose for being.
This indeed is the inspiration of the 5 young Sisters of Mercy from Ireland who braved the frontier wilderness of Chicago in 1846. Within a year, the sisters opened the first free parochial schools for girls and boys, the first orphanage, the first free employment office, and the first home for working girls, all near Madison, Michigan, and Wabash Avenues. They visit the sick in their homes, the poor in the almshouse, and the prisoners in jail as well.
There was a need. We were able to respond to that need, and we did it well, and we committed ourselves to it.
Chicago's first hospital opens at Lake House in November 1850 with 12 beds, a former hotel turned rooming house. The doctors entreat the Sisters of Mercy to aid them.
I think the sisters back then sort of felt like whatever they were asked to do, they would be given the grace and strength to do it, and so they said yes, and that was the beginning of the birth of Mercy Hospital. I also think that was the beginning of Mercy's commitment to research.
Research is still the cornerstone of medicine at Mercy. 19 years ago, at the request of Sister Annette Walsh, Director of Research Dr. Irv Haverlevich designed the program in place today. When she urged him to join the staff, he resisted.
But to be perfectly honest, nuns have a way of convincing you to say yes when you really want to say no.
His was a 3-pronged proposal.
We would devote ourselves to basic research that was related to medical problems. And the second responsibility that we assumed was to be involved with the teaching of medical sciences to the medical students and to the residents. And thirdly, we would provide whatever support we could to the attending staff to make research easier for them.
On October 16th, 1853, the sisters open a 50-bed hospital and an orphanage at Wabash and Van Buren. Then, as now, quality medical care and excellence in education shaped the 11 years spent at this site in service to Chicago. Dr. Davis and his colleagues dared to set more stringent requirements for admission to their medical degree program. To accomplish this, Mercy affiliates with Lind University and becomes the first teaching hospital in the United States with a graded curriculum. 11 faculty professors teach 13 fields of medicine, presenting subjects in logical sequence. Prior to this, young doctors' training took 3 months. And where is Mercy today as a teaching institution?
Fact of the matter is, we do it well. We're geared up to do it. It needs to be done. The kinds of patients that we serve here, the comprehensiveness of the treatment that we're able to give, I think is probably the best experience for those future physicians.
The fact that we interact so closely gives us a very intimate knowledge of the medical problems and the urgency of what we're doing in the laboratory. And I think that when you're working strictly in a university environment, you lack this sense of urgency.
Dr. Davis professional clinics draw doctors from all over the world, and Mercy gains a national reputation for innovative medicine. It is the start of a tradition of concern for advancing professional competency, which extends to the present time.
We try to instill in these people the importance of research even after they've left their formal training that will serve them well as they go through the medical journals in the years to come.
After the move to Cumberland House, Sister Agatha discovers that the diocese holds title to the hospital and orphanage buildings. Wisely, Sister persuades a good friend, Mrs. Crowley, to purchase more than half a block of property in Carville at 25th and Calumet, near the Illinois Central Car Barns. St. Agatha's Academy moves there. Suddenly, in 1864, Mrs. Crowley's generosity and Sister Agatha's foresight pay off. With just 2 days' notice, the sisters are forced to move their patients to the school facilities at 25th and Calumet, henceforth known as Mercy Hospital. In the 1860s, the chaos of the Civil War intrudes upon the peace of this quiet South Side neighborhood. Incensed by the squalid conditions at nearby Camp Douglas, the sisters write to the U.S. government to voice their concern for the prisoners being held there. They receive a prompt reply over the signature of President Abraham Lincoln.
On application of the Sisters of Mercy of Chicago, furnish such provisions as they desire to purchase, and charge same to the War Department.
Sisters and staff doctors also serve in the front lines field hospitals, treating both Union and Confederate troops. A later entry in Lincoln's diary reads,
Of all the forms of charity and benevolence seen in the crowded wards in the hospitals, those of the Sisters of Mercy were among the most efficient. More lovely than anything I have seen in art are the pictures that remain of those modest sisters going their rounds among the suffering and dying. They were veritable angels of mercy.
1869 is a year of decisions. Mercy affiliates with Northwestern University and becomes Northwestern University Medical School. The sisters commit bricks and mortar to their decision to stay on the South Side and break ground for a 245-bed hospital at 25th and Calumet. Many scoff at their building such a large hospital so far out in the country. But on the morning of October 9th, 1871, Mercy is the only hospital to survive the Great Chicago Fire. To care for the injured, the sisters use every available space from cellar to attic, even giving up their own beds. Those treated at Mercy for burns, broken bones, smoke inhalation, and exhaustion number in the thousands. A grateful city endows 40 additional beds at $1,000 each. Sister Vincent builds a new wing. Sister Mary Raphael McGill is appointed superior in 1882. She oversees the chartering of Mercy Training School for Girls in 1892. By 1900, 66 nurses have graduated. Sister Raphael adds 4 large wards and 50 private rooms in 1893 and a 4-story clinic for the poor in 1896. Mercy now occupies almost a square block with frontage on 3 of the most exclusive residential streets in the city. Realizing that bacteriology and pathology are crucial to keeping pace with the changes in medical surgical treatment, Sister Raphael sets up a clinical laboratory for Dr. Frank Billings and convinces the medical staff of the value of autopsies. It is she who brings Dr. John Benjamin Murphy onto the staff. Mercy remains in the vanguard of medical discoveries with a parade of first accomplishments. Sister Mary Ignatius Feeney becomes the first registered woman pharmacist in Illinois. Dr. William Byford performs the first ovariotomy. Dr. Joseph DeLee designs the DeLee obstetrical forceps. Dr. J.B. Murphy invents and puts in place the Murphy button in 1892. Dr. J.B. Murphy collapses the first lung to allow it to heal from tuberculosis in 1895. Dr. J.B. Murphy performs the first appendectomy in 1895. Dr. Philip Kruscher performs the first arthroscopy at Mercy in 1926. When J.B. Murphy begins to study medicine in 1878, surgeons are sticking threaded needles for sewing human flesh in their coat lapels, washing their hands after an operation, and think infection is a natural part of the healing process. Murphy changes all that. If you were a patient of Dr. Murphy around the turn of the century, you would be seen in an office looking like this. Senior research scientist Bill Blair and Sister Christetta have studied the Murphy legacy.
He was a marvelous diagnostician, a superb surgeon, a researcher of the first merit, a man of a curious mind who went into depth in surgical problems. He was also a great teacher and chronicled his work with his Murphy Clinics, which was a first in the United States. What Murphy developed was an anastomosis button called the Murphy button. And this is the button. It's 2 spools, essentially, that one puts in the bowel. Slides into one side of the bowel and puts a purse string around it, just a little oversewn string, and does it on the other side and snaps this together. Now this looks very simple. The fact of the matter is it's an extraordinary invention. It's probably the first device ever put into a human being is to reside for a period of time. So much of what we talked about earlier and what Murphy did had to happen in an environment where it could be possible. This is where Mercy really comes in. Sister, will you tell us about some of these sisters who worked with him and made it possible?
Sister Victory was one of the most staunch supporters of Dr. J.B. Murphy during all of his career at Mercy. She prepared for all of his operations. She went over the various procedures with him, saw that everything was put directly into his hand that he wanted without his having to ask for them.
And of course, we have to add Sister Ethelreda, who was his anesthetist.
Throughout his life, Murphy was surrounded with legend and controversy. Dr. Robert Schmitz tells the real story surrounding his legendary coup in bringing Teddy Roosevelt to Mercy following his attempted assassination in Milwaukee.
Several well-meaning people called their own surgeons in Chicago to stand by, and 4 of them, including Murphy, were so notified.
A number of garbled messages passed back and forth, till finally they all were told,
"Come back at 8 in the morning when the train would be arriving." Now at this point is the amusing part. There are 3 different versions of what happened. One I think is probably correct, and that is since Murphy worked for the Northwestern Railway, he was able to have the car diverted to Navy Pier, where he picked up Roosevelt and took him to Mercy.
Orthopedic surgeon Dennis Gates recently discovered another Mercy first.
Arthroscopy is the examination of the inside of a joint by means of a small diameter telescope. It is right now the most common surgical procedure done in the U.S. However, most physicians aren't aware that the very first arthroscopic examination of a joint was done right here in Chicago at Mercy Hospital. And it was done by Dr. John B. Murphy's first assistant, Dr. Philip Kruger. Dr. Kruger used a cystoscope, and I have with me a picture of Dr. Kruger's instrument that he had modified.
From 1900 to 1916, Sister Raphael adds 5 more buildings, including the Prairie Avenue Annex. A plea for help from war-stricken Europe sends the first units of staff personnel from Mercy to France in 1915 and 16. When the U.S. finally enters the war, there are 125 nurses and doctors from Mercy already in service. After World War I, the National War Council funds the Mercy Free Dispensary to care for discharged military personnel and their dependents. In 1921, the sisters take it over and continue to treat the afflicted of the city throughout the Depression years. Though separately chartered, the clinic is still financially dependent on the hospital. The post-war years bring major changes. Mercy establishes the first graduate nursing degrees in Illinois. In 1919, Cardinal Stritch asks Mercy to sever ties with Northwestern University in order to affiliate with Loyola, to form the first Catholic medical school. Specialists join the staff and add to Mercy's growing prestige with new technology and procedures. Dr. Henry Schmitz, Sr., installs the first 1,000,000-volt radiation therapy machine for treating cancer and establishes the Institute for Radiation Therapy in 1933 at Mercy. Dr. Robert Schmitz explains the significance of this.
At the time, there were no 1,000,000-volt units that had been designed specifically for the treatment of cancer. My father thought there would be an advantage in the higher voltages, and so he and Coolidge at General Electric designed a machine, and the nuns built the building which housed it. Time did prove that the higher voltages were effective, and so in the new hospital, there's a 38-million-volt machine.
Neurosurgeon Harold Voris provides the first electroencephalograph. Later in 1954, he will achieve the first successful separation of head-joined Siamese twins. By this time, his skills are world-renowned. General Surgeon Arkell Vaughn tests the effects of early mobility following surgery and finds faster healing, reduced nausea, and less nursing care being required. Pathologists George Changus and Donald Foreman developed the osmometer, crucial to diagnosing metabolic diseases. Dr. Changus brings electron microscopy to the Midwest. With the start of World War II, Mercy again sends great numbers of doctors and nurses overseas, causing staff shortages.